Imagine with me that you are on a mission trip to Chimuntu village in rural Zambia, Africa. The poverty of the people who make less than $1 a day is moving. So before you leave, you give your leftover kwacha to a needy family so that they can purchase school supplies and your old clothes to another. And when you arrive back home, you share how you helped to lift the people of Chimuntu village out of poverty. Each year, dozens of missionaries come and do the same things, thinking that they have helped the poor. But did they? I have lived here for nearly 5 years and have seen many groups come and go, but Chimuntu village has not yet seen the positive effects that these missionaries hope to leave behind. In his book, Toxic Charity, Robert Lupton writes of Africa, in the last 50 years, the continent has received over $1 trillion in benevolent aid, and Africans are far worse off today. Over half of Africa's population lives on less than $1 a day. And according to Grant Dryden in the Farming God's Way Trainer's Reference Guide, 1 in 3 Africans are undernourished, and Africa is the only continent where the number of hungry people are increased annually. So what happened? Today we're going to answer that question and see what we should be doing instead to help Africa out of poverty and towards development. There are 2 main problems with the way that we have done giving in the past. The first is that free handouts, such as money, food, and clothing, have been proven to hurt the poor by trampling on their human dignity. In When Helping Hurts, Steve Corbett and Brian Fickert write, research from around the world has shown that shame is a major part of the brokenness that low-income people experience. The way that we act toward the economically poor often communicates that we are superior and they are inferior. Now, you might be thinking, not me, that's the furthest thing from my mind. And that is true for most of the people who end up doing this. They rush in and drill wells, set up feeding programs and hand out clothes, and send the message, you poor people, since you can't help yourselves, we're here to rescue you. Can you imagine how this feels? The second point, free handouts have been proven to bring dependency. An article by James Perrin at Fee.org says that in Tanzania, farmers simply stopped producing food because of the availability of free donated food. If you think that sounds crazy, what do you think happened to that family in Chimuntu village when you gave them money to buy school supplies? And so the next missionary and the next? You've crippled that family with dependency because they'll no longer see a reason to save for their children's future when they know that you will cover the cost. Another problem with free handouts is that they're simply not what the poor need to escape poverty. In her book, A Framework for Understanding Poverty, Ruby Payne explains that poverty is a culture, a way of living, something that money alone cannot change. She says that the ability to leave poverty is more dependent on other resources, such as emotional, mental, and physical resources, than it is on financial resources. That's why money won't solve poverty. It's not just a money issue. So now we know the problems with the way that we've done giving in the past. It isn't going to be easy to change the way that we think about poverty, but it is possible, and to see lasting change in Africa, it must be done. So the first question we must ask ourselves is, what do we really hope to accomplish by our giving? I hope that what we are striving for is true poverty alleviation and long-term development in Africa. Let's start by looking at how poverty alleviation looks for the country of Zambia. Like we saw earlier, poverty is not just the lack of money. 2 of the resources Ruby Payne says are needed to leave poverty are mental resources, such as a good education, and physical resources, such as good health. According to NationMaster.com, only 56% of students make it to high school in Zambia. And according to the National Africa Health Observatory's website, malnutrition underlies up to 52% of all under 5 deaths in Zambia. So how can we ever expect to help Africa out of poverty by handing them money, when what they need is an education and nutrition? This is a problem that cannot be solved in 2 weeks, which brings us to the second part of our goal, long-term development. In When Helping Hurts in Short-Term Missions, Steve Corbett and Brian Fickert write, poverty alleviation involves walking with people over time. We should not be surprised that our 2-week trips do not have a significant impact on reducing poverty. Let's think about it like this. If my skirt has a rip in it, I can either pin it with a safety pin, which takes 2 seconds and should last about a day, or I can sew it shut with needle and thread. This solution takes a lot longer, but it should last a whole lot longer too. The same is true with development. If you and I want to bring change in Africa that will last longer than 2 weeks, we need to stop giving poverty the 2-minute fix. Family Legacy, an organization in Zambia, is working to bring lasting change in the area of education and nutrition. In the fall 2015 issue of Z Magazine, they write, Family Legacy operates 18 Legacy Academy schools across the slum communities of Lusaka, Zambia, where so many children are desperately in need of teachers and even basic resources to break out of the vicious cycle of economic devastation they are born into. On their website, they share how they feed a nutritious and vitamin-rich meal to help combat the hunger these children are so accustomed to. Family Legacy is helping to alleviate poverty in Zambia by providing education and a nutritious meal. They are training young Zambians who help to lead their country with dignity and demolish dependency. And they are not trying to do this with a safety pin. They are here to bring long-term change with needle and thread. So do you want to see Chimuntu Village, Zambia, and all of Africa freed from poverty? Then I hope that you see that going to Africa for 2 weeks and handing out vitamins or teaching English is not what it's going to take to solve this problem. If you really want to help, find an organization like Family Legacy that's already established and is doing the long-term work that Africa needs, and then work with them to accomplish the development that the people really need. And now you know how to do that. Today we've learned what poverty is and what you and I need to do to help. True, this kind of work might not seem as glamorous as serving food in a bread line, but learning to do things that may seem insignificant is what it will take to see a continent be transformed by needle and thread aid that will last much longer than us and help to bring true poverty alleviation.